Well, hello and welcome to Resolve, Evolve, and Rewire with Donna Parker. Today, I am so inspired to introduce Miss Dawna Campbell. She is a speaker, a teacher, a healer, a movie producer, and she's known as the Mind Whisperer. And this woman is a woman on a mission. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, I'm honored.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me,
Mhm.
can you share what you'd love to share? You have so many projects,
Yes.
so many things you're working on, moving pieces and parts, and where you're inspired. Can you share some of what began your inspiration? How'd you?
Wow. That is a great question. What really began my inspiration really started at a time in my life where my life was actually almost taken away from me. And in that process, I realized that I was given life and I was meant to live abundantly in all areas of my life, that I'm here to live a magical life. But it wasn't just about me, it was about who could also continue or be on this journey with me. So when I started stepping into my power and looking at my life, I realized that I was really on a mission to create the world a better place. Now, I know a lot of people use that phrase, but what did it really mean to me? Because I had to define that. And for me, it's about lifting and raising everybody up in a vibrational field. Because if we're in the happiness, we're in the gratitude, we're in the peace, the balance, the joy, that is so much a better way to live than in the anger, the frustration, the fear, the sadness, the grief. And if I could do that in my own life, but help others do that in their life, then the whole world really truly becomes a better place. And so it came throughout in my healing work that I do. I became an author because some people might receive that through writing. And I have several books and I write for a magazine. It came through my speaking, whether I was speaking virtually or live on stage or on a podcast, hosting retreats. And then more recently, in the last few years, through movies, through executive producing, because healing can come in many different media forms.
Hmm. Many modalities. Wow. So I love what you said. You almost had to lose your life almost to find your life,
Yeah.
your mission, your vision. Yes, say more about that experience, please.
So, what happened for me during that time, I was involved in a relationship, and the person at that time decided, no idea why, it was either really, really, really good. It was like heaven on earth, or it was like the not so good, that the hellish moments that we all go
Yeah.
through. And there was one day I was sitting on the sofa, I was reading a book. He walked over, came downstairs, put his hand around my throat, cut off my airway. There was no warning, no anything. And just before I took my last breath, he took his hand off of me, pulled me off the sofa, looked at me, handed me this exercise board, and said, "Here you go. Hit me with it. I deserve it. I should not have done that."
Mm.
And I went, wow. And I don't remember a whole lot outside of looking at the board, looking up at him, and looking at the board. And I went, I can't do that. And I put down the board and I left the room. Within a month, I was gone out of that relationship. And it was about 3-ish years later, out of the blue, his obituary popped up in a Facebook feed, which I thought was really strange because he didn't believe in social media.
Mm.
And his brother had posted and he had died. And so I read through the obituary and learned that he had died of brain cancer. And knowing what I know about cancer as a healer, I went back in time. And at the time that that initiated was at the time that that event took place. And that was when I realized that, one, karma really is a real thing. Two, I had different understanding and compassion for what the person was going through because at the time there was no knowledge. But it didn't excuse what they did. So I learned a lot about forgiveness, self forgiveness, which I believe forgiveness is forgiving yourself and others unconditional love. It didn't mean what they did was right or wrong. It was just,
Ooh, I
but you're
like
not
that. Can
holding on to the energy.
let's drop the mic just for 1 minute. Say
Yeah.
that again. I love that because I would agree.
Yep.
Because sorry brings in this victim villain mindset,
Mhm.
like, and that keeps people in a victim,
Yes.
right? So it assumes that someone did something, like you said, right or wrong. So
Mhm.
please say that again. That's powerful.
Forgiveness is for giving yourself and others unconditional love.
Mm,
It doesn't mean
mm,
what they said or did
mhm,
was right or wrong.
mm,
It's just saying, I love myself enough that I am no longer going to hold on to the energy of anger, sadness, resentment, frustration, irritation, whatever it was that you're holding on to from that life circumstance. Has nothing to do with the other person, but how you treat yourself.
mm. Beautiful. Because in really, when we would look at that relationship and someone say, "Well, that was a toxic relationship," or,
Mhm.
a toxic moment, and it's interesting because in that moment, people come into I like to say our movie, right?
Mhm.
And so he came in to play that role, that
Absolutely.
character, in your movie, and so for everything we wanna judge and label
Yes.
toxic,
Yes.
it's really this element of terrific.
Mhm.
And it's almost like you said, if you can find the love in that moment, like he loved you enough to play that role,
Absolutely.
to catapult to that
Absolutely.
breath, that spirit within, that life within you.
Because if that event didn't happen,
Mhm.
I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And
I'm loving him.
right, for the love of the life that I do have,
Yeah.
for understanding that we're all meant to live here abundantly and prosperously. The other thing that I learned from that
Mhm.
was that sometimes love walks away.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you have to love yourself enough, love yourself plenty that you can walk away from a situation because it was holding me back from my evolution and growth, but it was also holding him back from his own evolution and growth.
Mhm. Mhm.
And sometimes that love parts ways so you can both grow for your own life lessons. And that was one of the hardest lessons to learn because you believe you love the other person, they should stay and
Mhm.
all of the things we do to,
Mm.
for the outside world, but it's really an inside job.
Mhm. Mhm. It's being loving yourself enough
Yes.
to step into your value and what you
Mhm.
worthiness in the dynamic and in the relationship. And I love what you said. It was walking away to honor and value you.
Yes.
And simultaneously, he got to also, even if we don't want to cause
Mhm.
someone pain, it's like in that
Right.
breaking open, right? It really is where the breakthrough can happen for both people
Mm.
involved.
And if it doesn't break, how does the light shine through, right?
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So from that moment,
Mhm.
so then what's kept opening up when you
Oh, wow. That was after that event.
Mhm.
That was when I dedicated my life to healing and to a healing practice. And t- when you make a promise to the universe, you have to keep it. The universe will never forget that you made the promise.
So
And if you
here's the
forget, the
promise, guys.
universe will remind
Yeah.
you.
Damn it.
But it was, if my children and I were kept safe, I would dedicate my life to this healing world.
Mm,
And I haven't stopped since. It's been about 20 years.
mm,
And my children and I have always been kept safe. Now they're grown adults.
mhm,
We've moved on. And now my definition of safety has changed over time.
mm,
But every time it shifted and changed, and it added more in to how I define safety,
mhm,
then the universe said, here's more. Here's a bigger mission. Here's a bigger purpose. Here's something more you can do.
mm,
I mean, I never thought I would produce movies when I was little.
mm,
It never crossed my mind.
mhm,
But yet today, that's what I do because there's a form of healing that happens
mm.
with production and with movies and a message that can be communicated across. And so it's another medium to affect millions and millions and millions of people. Whereas doing one on one consultation, you're only affecting one person at a time.
Yes.
So the universe always delivers more when you ask.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There's something too about, and say, because this is an interesting pattern, because didn't you also say that what inspired the movie production
Hmm.
was from a situation that most people would have labeled as terrible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can you share a little of
absolutely. Um, This last summer, I was actually walking down the street and felt energy just sort of push me. I stumbled a little bit, caught myself, captured my attention, apparently not enough, pushed me even further, and I launched out in the road 8 feet, and I was pretty much all by myself. So I had multiple concussions. I broke some ribs and did some. So I got to spend some time on the sofa and got to really look and consider my own healing journey in that, and really started doing a self analysis of my life and what was I not paying attention to and where was I not in alignment. And then that was when I learned the body has to be in physical alignment as well, because if the body's not in physical alignment, you're not going to be aligned in other areas of your life. You might be spiritually aligned, you might be emotionally aligned, but today it's an all or nothing kind of deal.
It's giving feedback to get
Absolutely.
you in alignment. Mhm.
And one of the things I considered was, well, I've been asked to produce movies, and it's coming up on the 20th anniversary of The Secret. And would we put together something because we need to update our truths? And I said yes. And the movie Pillars of Power was born. And we have identified 5 pillars that need to come in alignment. And then from there, how do we define achieving greatness and what does that really mean? And what is that hidden secret behind it? So that I agreed to one movie. I will tell you that. But then somebody mentioned do a women's empowerment movie and do a series. So then I said, well, why not? So those would be some of the famous words I've heard from Sharon Lecter from time to time. Why not?
Why not?
And so The Rise of the Lioness, The Power of Feminine Leadership was also born. So we're in the process of casting for that.
Beautiful. And it's interesting, because during that time that you were pushed into traffic, again,
Mhm.
near death,
Yes.
it sounds like, again, life is like pushing you forward
Yes.
into your alignment. Because when you're on the couch, what did you get to spend your time doing? Were the things we're resenting the most. But when
Right.
you go, okay, well, what was the gift in what I'm resenting, and how is the puzzle piece actually connecting the dots in that
Mhm.
moment?
Yes. So laying on the sofa, what was really funny was I just started analyzing documentaries. And I started looking at the different pieces and how many people were in a documentary and how much time did they have and how many number of appearances and what was the message. And then I started looking at the production side of it. And the next thing you know, I'm picking up the phone going, yeah, I think I'm going to do this. It's time. We're going to push that button.
Mhm. But
So
you listened to the call.
I did.
You listened.
After, yes, I
Yeah.
listened to the call after I was
After you were forced.
asked I was forced to.
I usually require a 10 by 4 sometimes
Yeah.
too, right? Because a 2 by 4 is not big enough.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I've concluded now that
Yeah.
it's much easier just to sit and ask
Enough.
and to receive
Yes.
the messages instead of to be forced into it
No.
now. So
And let the messages flow through you in alignment.
there was a big change. There was a big change after that.
Mm, beautiful. So now it sounds like you're working on these 2 big inspiring projects
Mhm,
that ultimately the ripple effects
mhm.
and the magnitude.
Yes.
Wow, I can feel that.
Yeah. It's all about changing lives and for each person to take what they need from it to grow and magnify in their own way. One of my mentors shared with me that it's not so much about giving and receiving as it is about receiving and then sharing. So now I'm in this place to receive, but I'm also in this place to share it with the rest of the world. And in sharing the different messages, everyone has that opportunity for their own evolution growth to enhance their own gifts, talents, and abilities to really become who they're meant to be in their authentic self alignment with purpose. And the Japanese have a word, it doesn't translate very well into English, but it's called ikigai. And it's a way to be solely aligned with your purpose and knowing what that is.
Ikigai.
And each one is different. It's as unique as your fingerprints, as unique as your own soul print.
Soul print.
We all have a soul print.
And one of the questions of the movie
Hmm.
in the pillars is it's about greatness.
Yes.
And that means something different for everyone.
Mhm.
So how would you answer that question? What
Mm.
does greatness mean to you in your paradigm?
The hidden secrets.
Mhm.
It's really about being internally authentic to who you are on the inside, to not to be that energy wave to make the change and the effect in the outside world, to share in a different way in the quantum, so to speak. And when you have that internal alignment and that true authenticness, meaning you're the same person you're on stage versus off stage, on a podcast, off a podcast, you're truly in alignment and in
Mhm.
harmony with yourself. That's where the true greatness is, because the energy feed comes in through the divine and out to the world, which lifts and raises everybody. And then the energy from the outside world comes in for the information feedback to tell you whether you're in alignment or not. And it's paying attention to that versus just reading the outside world and trying to change yourself for every situation, which is one of the most impossible things to do because you don't know who you are in those moments.
So then you're contorting and distorting to try to fit in and follow the herd,
Right.
but it is listening to the alignment of your own soul.
Because you're reacting instead of responding. And instead of being who you are and letting it be, you're trying to change it in that way.
What would you say prevents people from living in authenticity and alignment? What are some of the
Mm. The first thing that jumps into my mind is people pleasing.
yeah.
Thinking that we have to be or become somebody that the world expects us to be rather than just who you are. My greatest teacher in my life was actually my mother. And I remember a story. Well, it is a story now, but I remember a time where she asked me, I was about 8 or 9. She goes, "Donna, what do you want to be when you grow up?" I remember she was standing at the back door and I looked at her and I was incredibly thankful I knew the answer to this. And I looked up at my mom and I said, "Well, I think I'm just going to join Greenpeace and save the whales." I thought it was a great answer for age 8. Who
Mhm,
would have thought about that?
mhm.
And my mom got incredibly angry in that moment and looked at me, and you could just see, like, the flames in her eyes, and she's like, "You can be anything in the world. You could be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist." And I didn't understand what I did wrong, and she opened up the back door, walked out, and slammed it right in my face. So then I sneak out the front door because she went to the
Uh-huh,
backyard
mhm.
and was going down the street, and I was wondering what I had done wrong. And so I'm like, "Well, all right, I don't know." So I started skipping down the street. It's like, "Yeah, I think if I really could be anything in the world, what would I do? Oh, I would travel the world, I'd be a gypsy, and I would read crystal balls and palm read. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun." And they were like, "Oh, shiny rock, into the pocket it goes." And I went back into my happy state. But then when my mom asked me those questions again, did I tell her those things? No, because I was taught those were not the right answers
Yeah,
to the world.
yeah.
Now, I would say things like, "I'm just gonna be a veterinarian," or, "A teacher, that sounds good. Yeah, whatever." And I would get away because I didn't have that energy coming back. So I learned how to people please that way, but the challenge was how do you stay true and authentic to yourself in those moments? But what I realized is that there's always a deeper lesson. It doesn't matter what life hands you, whether, you can cast away a gift as ugly, but even with your joy, there's a greater joy. So there was always a lesson at every moment. It's called a silver lining moment. And when I look back about that moment with my mom, it wasn't that she wanted me to be something, that it was the lesson that it was during the women's liberation movement. You could be anything you wanted to be in the world and look at these other options, but you have the freedom to choose. And there was a greater lesson in that when I look at it today. My 8-year-old mind could not have comprehended that. I thought I did something wrong. But she was telling me I had choice and I could be who I wanted to be. And now I am. But the lesson wasn't quite how I would have liked to have received it. But there was a greater
A
lesson in that.
beautiful gift in that.
Yes.
And I love that you're exemplifying, turning wounds or pain to wisdom
Mhm.
versus, continuing to shame your mom. But you shift that again, transmuting that into love and appreciation. And,
Yes.
and we had a conversation a little bit about love and appreciation.
Mhm.
So I'm inspired by that because otherwise it's really you're just judging the other person,
Mhm.
which is often a part of self we're judging,
Mhm.
right? And then so share more about that, how you've been able to do that.
Oh, it's been a lifelong lesson.
Mhm.
But one of the greatest ways that it was taught to me was when I was living in an ashram. It's a spiritual living community.
Mhm.
And at that time, it was just before that event where the partner that I had attempted to take my life.
Mhm.
And he brought me this letter. And the letter was called Within Our Reach. And it was a letter from a monk from the 1500s. He was a Frere Giovanni. He was a painter and an antiquary and an architect and a mathematician. And in this letter, he wrote it to a countess on Christmas Eve. And in the letter, Within Our Reach, talks about that life gives us trials and tribulations, and yet there's a gift in it only if we choose to see it. But also, life gives us these joyful moments. But it's not just about the joy, it's what is the joy that's greater than the joy? And all we have to do is look. And we judge everything by how life gives us these gifts by the wrapping paper it's in, and we can cast it away as ugly. But if we unwrap it, there's a better gift in there. So if you keep unwrapping that gift, what is that ultimate gift that you get to share in the world with others? And so now, ever since then, I read that letter often, even to this day, because we're all on our way home to the vibration that we came from. And I look at everything, what was the gift in these moments? And if it wasn't something that was pleasant or that I thought was pleasant, a painful moment, for example, what did I really learn from that? Because when you understand that and those silver lining gifts, you can transmute it to the gift to the higher vibration. But don't be content just with the higher vibration. What's even better than that?
Yeah, what's the gift in that? Right?
Exactly.
It's like at Christmas
Yeah.
when you have those joke gifts
Yes.
and they're like unwrapped
Mhm.
and then you're unwrapping again, like and you're down to the 20th
Yeah.
time, but it's infinite,
Yeah.
right?
It is.
It is.
So there's an
It is.
exercise
Please
I love
share.
leading people through
Beautiful.
was whatever emotion that you feel in your heart. Maybe it's anger. Something happened, you argued with your partner, and you're in this state of anger. Well, unwrap that ugly wrapping paper of anger, and what do you have? Well, okay, I might be frustrated. Okay, unwrap that one. What do you have? Okay, I was irritated. All right, unwrap that one. What do I have? Well, I guess I have a different understanding now because I saw their point of view. Okay, unwrap that. What do you have? And if you keep going, you're eventually going to get back to your authentic self and to your authentic vibration in the heart space.
Mm.
So
Key is
it's
getting into the heart space,
absolutely
right?
every single time.
Mhm.
And by the time you make it there, you realize all the other stuff you got done unwrapping didn't really exist.
No, it's just the story.
Just the story.
Mhm. Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, anything else? I know we're short on time. I feel like I could go off and sit here for with
Right.
you for
We could
hours.
do a part two
I know.
later.
I think that is going to be important. Is there anything else you would love to just share with our listeners and viewers from your
Absolutely.
heart to theirs?
Absolutely. When I was going through all of those hard times, I had my own personal mantra that I wrote, and I say it often, and it's actually in the beginning part of my book, The Abundant Soul Creating Inner Wisdom for Financial Success. And in it, it says, trust and you will see, believe and you will know, have faith, all is well, follow your heart, and spirit will lead you.
Mm. Mm. Wow. Thank you so much. Such an honor to
Thank
be with
you.
you today here. And I am looking forward to part two because my mind just started thinking about wealth in your book. So
Yes.
thank you again for being on the show and have a lovely day.